What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. It's me, your host, Vintus, and welcome to the ultimate zealot farming progression guide. And OGs to the channel may be asking themselves, Vintus, you already made a zealot progression guide, why are you making a new one? Well, that one was made over a year ago, and since then so many things have changed. Many new weapons were added, which are now the new meta. New armor sets were added that are now the new meta. They added a whole new area with the Zealot Bruisers, and they made some of the old metas for Zealot farming completely irrelevant. So let's not waste any time and get into the ultimate Zealot progression guide. The structure of this video will be quite simple. It will be split into two parts, the first part being talking about the weapons and armor to use together, and the second being talking about the pets to use. Since it is a progression guide, we will be going from early game to end game. So if you're already further into the game, you can also go check out some of the end game setups first. But of course, even some of these early game setups are incredibly good, especially in terms of value, and can honestly be really good to use even if you are late game, mid game, or even end game. I also want to remind you guys that the giveaways from my two previous videos, as well as the giveaways in my Discord server right now, are going to be ending in only 2 days, so make sure to join those. I will be giving away 3 golden tigers, including one being divine, which is the one given away on my Discord server. All the winners will be announced on the Discord server as well, so you should join regardless. Before we get into the setups to use, let's talk about some basic things you should have beforehand. The first one is some kind of transportation, so an aspect of the void or an aspect of the end. If you're on a lower budget, you just get an aspect of the end. It's an excellent item to get. However, an aspect of void does have the advantage of the ether transmission, allowing you to go and essentially teleport long distances like this, and it can give you a slight advantage. Then of course you will need a god pot. That is pretty self-explanatory. There are also 2 optional things you could have for zealot farming, but these are optional. The first is the Fire Veil wand, and it can be used, and it can be useful in some situations when you're just running around with it and you can kill the enemy around you. I personally don't use it, which is why it's an optional thing. I honestly don't think it's that useful, but I see some people using it, so I just wanted to mention it. This is actually quite a good deal, I don't know. And the other one is to get Enderman Slayer level 9. That gives you a 15% higher chance to find special zealots, which is really nice. We don't know if it's bugged or not. To be fair, there's a good chance that it actually is bugged, but I think it does work currently. But getting Enderman Slayer 9 is no easy task, so yeah, it is optional. And without any further ado, let's get right into our first setup. This setup is essentially a full set of young with an aspect of the dragons. It's really simple, it's really straightforward. You run at extreme speeds, use teleportation when necessary, I'm lagging a little bit right now, and you kill zealots with your ability. It's really simple. This is still done in the dragon's nest. And yeah, it's one of the most OG setups. You essentially just run around, you attack people, and it's really simple, incredibly cheap, being at around 1 million for this and under 1 million for this, under 2 million for the whole setup. And you can go around grinding zealots. Your main advantage is your speed and the fact that your ability has AoE, making it pretty easy to aim at opponents. It's also pretty easy to make it one-shot zealots, so that's also a nice bonus. Additionally, when you're farming zealots, you should also have a pretty high FOV. Mine's at 90, which is actually kind of standard, but if you want, you can have it higher. Or you can also just go into F5 and run around like this. This will allow you to see more, essentially. You'll be able to see more of the mobs around you and everything, and you'll miss less mobs. However, this does take practice sometimes, and it takes some getting used to. This is just honestly a really fun to use, cheap, great early game zealot farming strategy. It's really simple, it works great. But now let's move on to one that is far more famous and far more hated. You know I had to mention it, Frozen Scythenons are back! And they're as relevant as ever. They've always been this decent, and they still are. I've not practiced my Frozen Scythe farming in a very, very long time. Over a year, in fact. But yeah, I mean, it still works. They fire. The projectile is still fast with good range. It's precise. It one-shots zealots. is everything you would ever want. A full set of Wides is the obvious armor set to use in this situation, and you grind Zealots like normal. It's not bad, it's not great. It's a good setup, though frozen sights are quite expensive nowadays, being around 12 million coins each. So the setup does end up costing like 14 million coins. So it isn't exactly a cheap setup, but it definitely is a good one. And if you really enjoy Zealot farming, then it's a great one to go for. And up to now, things have been the same in terms of Zealot farming because we've been talking about the Dragon's Nest. But of course, things are now going to change with the new Zealot Bruiser's hideout. Let's go into the setups to use there to get far more summoning eyes than you ever could in the Dragon's Nest. The next setup is one that everybody knows, the Juju Non setup. But we won't be using Shadow Assassin, of course, we will be using Young. And it's simple, more speed. Zealot Bruisers aren't that tanky, a Juju wipes them out easily. See, this damage is way more than what we need to kill a Bruiser. It's awesome, projectile speed is insanely high due to it being an arrow. It's a short bow, it fires fast, it's everything you want in a Zealot farming item. It can also hit Enderman because it is an Ender Slayer's short bow. And yeah, it's great. However, there are some twists that can be added into this. For example, you can change your armor to Final Destination, which is what I like to do, to level up its kills. Doing this allows you to essentially just level up your kills for Final Destination, and you can do it even if you don't need a set of Final Destination because you can get a higher kill count and you can sell it for profit afterwards. You get quite a few Zealot kills, so you can just use it and fire and do that. But you can also see the other armor set in my inventory. The Terror set. The Terror set is absolutely amazing with the Juju short bow, as it allows you to shoot 3 arrows at once. I'll demonstrate this once I can kill 10 Endermen, and now because you can see, this becomes a mini Terminator. For an armor set that costs around 3 million coins, this is absolutely insane. You essentially acquire a mini Terminator that allows you to shoot Endermen as much as you want. So you just see me running around with this mini Terminator, shooting 3 arrows at once and killing everything. It allows you to aim a lot less and to shut down your brain a lot more when you're farming Zealots because you don't actually have to try and hit the Enderman. You just shoot around and you can shoot everything. It's absolutely overpowered. Optionally, you can also take off 2 armors of terror and put 2 pieces of an armor of your choice, such as Final Destination, to level up kills. But this does seem to make the arrows flop a little bit. As you can see when I put on my full set, the arrows shoot with a lot of force as if it was regular arrows, such as a Terminator. But the second I take off 2 pieces, I can still use the combo, but the arrows seem to fall a lot faster. This doesn't really affect Zealot Bruiser farming because it's mostly kind of close range, but it's just a point to note. This is honestly my favorite setup because it is incredibly cheap, at least relatively, and it's incredibly efficient at what it does. The next setup on this list is kind of a weird one, because I've seen people use it quite often, but I personally am not a fan of it. It's Glacial Scythe Zealot farming with Zealot Bruisers. So pretend this is a Glacial Scythe because I can't afford, like I could, but I don't really want to buy one right now. Pretend this is a Glacial Scythe, you're able to one-shot Zealot Bruisers. There's a slight AoE, but it doesn't really affect things. The reason why people use it is because it doesn't really take much thinking. You just kind of stand here and fire at the Bruisers. And as you can see, I can't one-shot them with my Frozen Scythe, but if you could with the Glacial Scythe most of the time, especially if you have a mana set, and people just stand here and just shoot at the Zealots from here. I guess it's really easy to do, and there are a lot of them to shoot from this angle. If you don't want to move, then this is a possible method to use. I just want to mention it. I'm not a fan of it, but people do use it. And now we are going to be entering the end game of Zealot farming setups. But before this, I wanted to mention one item in particular that was once the best Zealot farming item and was the one that I described as the best in my previous guide. This is the Precursor Eye. The Precursor Eye, let me just find it real quick. Precursor Eye was once one of the best due to its laser ability being incredibly fast and having good range and being easy to use. However, it doesn't deal enough damage to kill a Bruiser, so it's pretty much irrelevant now. So don't get one for any reason really, because if you have the money to buy Precursor Eye, you should be just getting a Juju in farming the bruisers instead of farming the ones in the nest, because they have a lower drop rate and just spawn less. Look how many bruisers are around me. Imagine if this many zealots were spawning in the dragon's nest. So essentially the precursor eye is completely irrelevant now, which kind of sucks in some way, but I mean, it is what it is. And starting off our endgame setups, we have the Terminator with any kind of armor set. For example, you can use Young. If what you want is speed, you can just run around it with your Young and fire with this beautiful term. And you do need to get your crit chance high enough. I don't have anything like set to crit chance right now. I'm just borrowing a friend's Terminator. Thank you, by the way, Martaz, for lending me his Terminator. And you can also go and use, of course, Final Destination. This is incredibly similar to the Juju shortbow, but you do get this 3 arrows, which is really, really nice. And every 3 shots when you do get to use Salvation, it is an AoE attack, which is also incredibly nice. Additionally, you can also use Terror Armor in this situation as well. So I just put my clean Terror set. And if you charge up your 10 stacks with your Terror Armor, you can then use it and get 5 arrows with the Terminator. However, even though the Terminator fires 5 arrows, they kind of get scrunched up together. So for farming zealots, it isn't really the best. It might be slightly helpful, but it's nothing special. And I recommend, if you're using a Terminator to farm zealots, to simply be using Final Destination to be leveling kills on it. Or if you really want to, you could also use Young for the speed, because the 2 arrow boost from Terror just isn't worth it with the Terminator. It is with the Juju, but the Terminator not as much. And now let us discuss the final and best setup to farm zealots. Yes, there's a setup better than Terror Terminator, and that setup is simply using the Hyperion or any of its variants. It's just so overpowered in the current meta to use the Hyperion, and combining with the Hyperion, you should usually actually use Wise Dragon Armor. This may seem bizarre because, oh, why not use Storm, right? But with Wise, you deal easily enough damage, and my accessories aren't even reforged to intelligence right now. I'm still doing 500,000, which is more than enough to kill a Zealot Bruiser. But you will run out of mana less often, so you're able to spam your hype way more like this. And you can just kill the Zealots so incredibly easily. I don't have much experience farming Zealots with a Hyperion, but it's by far the best method. It's just so incredibly overpowered. And yeah. Additionally, if you have a good set of Aurora, you can also use that instead of the Wise. And you could also use a set of Necrotic Final Destination. If you have it, this is a Necrotic. But if you just want to go and level kills on a set of Final Destination, though you will need to watch your mana, as it will run out pretty quickly. Usually though, if you're just pure farming, a Wise set is more than enough. You can just go into F5 like this and just go and farm Zealots. It's super easy and it's super efficient. By far the best method. Though obviously with the Hyperion costing around 1.5 billion currently, just by itself, it is no cheap setup to get. And is only really if you're using Hype for other things outside of Zealot grinding. I also want to thank my friend CFX for lending me his Estrella, because they're so expensive right now, I definitely can't afford them. Now let's move on to the second part of this progression guide, which is pets. It's relatively simple, so I'll keep it super short and super informative. So let's go. First of all, you can use it to level combat pets. You get some combat XP. The combat XP is not incredible, but it's still good to have. Personally, I'm leveling up a Hound while also skill sharing or XP sharing a Skeleton Horse. These are both combat pets. You can get combat XP. You can level up your own combat pets or other pets. You can level up, for example, a Black Cat. And if you're running out of mana or need more mana in general, you can use a Sheep. This is good for if you're using the Frozen Scythe or if you're using the Hyperion. It could also maybe help you get that extra mana you need to one-shot Zealots if you're earlier in the game. And you could also use a Wolf for more combat XP, which is nice. Got more combat XP is always great. Additionally, if you want to go all out, you can then go and get a Mythic or Legendary Enderman. And at level 100, it does give you 25% more chances of special Zealots. However, this perk is often bugged. But if you really want to go all out for Zealot farming, you should still get one due to the extra 40% combat XP from Enderman, which is really nice. And yeah, that's pretty much it for the video. I hope you guys enjoyed or learned something new. If you have your own strategies, make sure to leave them down in the comments below to help others. And that's pretty much it, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you watched the video all the way through up to here and you're seeing this, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And it was me, your host, Vintus, and I'll see you guys in the next one.